All right,
Great.
ready to go.
The Board of Direct Entry Midwifery is convening at 8:05 a.m. on May 12th, 2022 at the Health Licensing Office in Salem, Oregon by telephone conference call. I will now call roll. Kelsey Fisher, here. Meredith Klein.
Here.
Beth Iva.
Here.
Wendy Smith is absent today. Christine Morales.
Here.
Lynette Pettibone. Lynette, are you here? Well, Lynette, let us know when you are here. Meredith Mance.
Here.
We do have a quorum. So, board members, when you wish to speak, please state your last name for the record. Public members wishing to speak must first sign in on the roster sheet. For public members calling in on the public phone line, please email April at april.fleming@dhsoha.state.or.us and provide your first and last name. Public and interested parties' feedback may be heard during the public interested parties' feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business. This meeting is called to order. I think
I was just wanted to let the board know that Lynette is on the line now, if you don't see her.
Great. Our first order of business would be to approve the agenda. Anyone move to approve the agenda?
This is Beth. I move to approve the agenda.
Thanks, Beth.
This is Meredith. I second.
Thanks, Meredith. We will vote. Kelsey Fisher, aye. Meredith Klein.
Aye.
Beth Iva.
Aye.
Wendy Smith is absent. Christine Morales.
Aye.
Lynette Pettibone.
Aye.
Meredith Nance.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Moving on to our next item of business. We have approval of courses and supervisor in a disciplinary case. Did everyone see the information ahead of time? Do we need to review it?
This is Bob. Some of the files were pretty big that everybody received, so there's some confusion as to what you were receiving. So yes, did everybody receive all of the documents related to the disciplinary case? Or the
No.
These documents were also in the meeting minutes.
And they are there, yes.
You want to try to find them?
Yeah, I got them. I'm gonna pull them up here in a second. This is Beth.
I had a question about our intent in one of the courses. The transfer course, were we looking for logistics of transfer, or were we looking for like when to transfer, risk assessment, I guess? Because the course submitted was the EMS course from Hive, which was on logistics of transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure if that was what we were thinking when we had assessed that line item.
This is Meredith. I think it was logistics for that one because I remember in that case there were we had talked specifically about like calling EMS and some issues they'd had with like relationships and whatnot. So I think there was a logistics component.
It looks to me also like this, our notice of intent, isn't like complete here. You know, it's kind of giving a play-by-play, but it's, goes from item 4, where they arrive at the birth center for artificial rupture of membranes, and then there's a lemon-sized piece of head that they can visualize, and then after that, it jumps right to infant non-absolute risk criteria. Like it seems like there's something missing in there. As far as, I don't know that it necessarily matters, but it might illuminate a little bit of this question of like what happened, and it was an issue of like the student wanted to call and she didn't. Things
So I
like
think that there might be pages that are either out of order or missing from the materials. But if you look at the requirement on page 10 of the materials and under 5B1, and the first sentence describes what you were indicating.
Yeah, it says a class and risk evaluation in relating to transferring. So if that, I haven't taken that Hive class, but if it's not about the risk evaluation in relation to transferring, I would think that it doesn't get to what we were asking for.
class. But I wonder if there's a different class that better, better addresses that, because that would just be a general risk assessment class, right? Like if you're doing risk assessment where you're noticing the pink flags, red flags, so to speak, accumulating, that would just kind of naturally continue on into a transfer.
Yeah, I think that the licensee was responsible for finding the classes to meet the requirements. It's just our responsibility of like, they submitted classes to us. Do we approve that they met our requirements or not?
Right.
I think in another case, when we weren't sure if a class met our requirements, we asked for the objectives of the class.
That's right.
That seems like a direction we could maybe go to
Seems
see
like
if the class meets our intent.
This is Beth. That sounds good to me. Kelsey, like, are you suggesting we ask for a itinerary or, like more details of what's involved in the course?
Yeah, exactly. The course is like a MEEC approved course, and so they're required to list their learning objectives. And so it should be in there, sort of the outline of the content. What do we think about the other class? It's the Hive fetal assessment. Language was specifically a class on advanced fetal assessment.
I think that's a good class.
I haven't taken that class, so I'm looking to other people who might be more familiar. I thought that it was more of a basic assessment class, but it might be advanced enough.
Can we just ask that they send like the course syllabus for both of them so that we know if they have the, I mean, I think it's hard to know if these are appropriate and meet the, what we're asking for without having a course syllabus.
Sure. That sounds great. Is that something that we could put a note about for the future if the board is asked to approve cases or approve classes, if the respondents could just submit the objectives or syllabus?
We can do that. We can ask for it.
Because then they don't have to wait. We don't have to go over it twice.
Right. Okay, and then the next document is a transport plan.
And this is Heather, just for clarification, the transport plan does not require approval. It's just there for you to review.
Okay.
And is that the same with the next document, the document from the employee handbook? We just needed it submitted to us. We don't have to approve it.
This is Heather, that's correct.
But we do approve the supervisor for the chart reviews.
This is Heather, that's correct.
Thanks, Heather. So did everyone see that the transport plan and the page from the employee handbook about communication were submitted? And then the thing that we need to decide about is the supervisor who reviewed 3 charts was Silka Akerson.
This is Bob, and that's on slide 22.
Thanks, Bob.
What do we need to approve that she's okay to be the reviewer?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Meredith Klein. I think she's quite appropriate person to do that review.
This is Christine. I don't see any issues either with it. I think it seems appropriate.
I agree. Does anyone not agree to Silka as the reviewer? Is that something that we need to vote on, or can we just verbally say that we agree?
This is Heather. You need to vote on that.
Okay. Well, then somebody will need to make a motion and somebody second it, and then we can vote. It looks like Christine maybe stepped away for a second, but she's back.
This is Beth, and I make a motion to approve Silka Anderson as the supervisor in the Anderson Erickson disciplinary case.
This is Christine, I second.
Thank you. A motion has been made to approve Silka Akerson as the board-approved supervisor for this case. I will now call roll. I can find my list. Kelsey Fisher, aye. Meredith Klein,
Aye.
Beth Iva,
Aye.
Wendy Smith is absent. Christine Morales,
Aye.
Lynette Pettibone,
Aye.
Meredith Mance.
Aye.
This.
And this is Bob, and then we'll go out and retrieve the information on the course syllabus for those 2 courses.
Perfect. Thank you, Bob.
Kelsey,
Heather?
this is Heather. The only other thing is that if the board does not agree that the handbook pages are not satisfactory proof, then that's where you would want to have a discussion. Otherwise, you don't need to take a vote. Just want to make sure you're aware of that.
Okay. Does anyone have concerns about the handbook pages?
This is Lynette, and again, I just had a question. I noticed that our wording is asking that they update their documentation, and we don't know what it was before, if this is the update. So it's hard for us to assess if there was any changes made.
Do you want to request the old version so that we can see that it's been updated?
Yeah,
Since there's no dates on them.
And this is Heather. Lynette, is that in relation to the transport plan under B3?
yes, it's in relation to both documents, to both the transport plan and the handbook regarding open communication.
And the handbook under B5? The requirement on that page 11, doesn't say updated, but it does say satisfactory proof that it does certain things. So I just want to direct your attention to that.
Thanks, I'm looking now.
Bob, shouldn't we have the old transport plan in the file?
We might. Trappist?
So on review, I guess my question is that our requirement was for the student handbook, and this appears to address employees, not specifically students. In terms of the overall title of the handbook, it does say you know, that it's not just employees. It does say all students and providers are expected and encouraged to voice their opinion, but the title of the page is expectations and obligations for employer employees. So I'm not feeling confident that this is part of the student handbook.
In the order, it says employee handbook. So 5B. It doesn't talk about the student. So, I mean, if
Okay.
that's what you want, that's fine, but that's not what it says in the.
I thought that was specifically what we were asking for, but I guess let me read it again.
It
Yeah,
says.
it's. Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Zoe,
Kelsey.
sorry.
I was just looking at it. It just says respondent must submit to the board satisfactory proof that Alma Midwifery's employee handbook addressed open communication, that all providers at Alma Midwifery are expected and encouraged to voice their opinions, blah, blah, blah.
You're correct. I see that. Okay. I think that I have to let that go, and that's fine.
So at least they put something about students in there too. When we forgot to ask for it. Are there any other concerns with the page from the employee handbook, or does it seem satisfactory proof? Okay. And that's not something that we need to vote on, as long as we're satisfied.
That's correct. It didn't need to be approved as long as it's satisfactory. If it's not, then you could ask for more information or request. You could take a vote if you wanted to. That would be fine too, but you don't have to.
Is there anyone who doesn't find it to be satisfactory proof? Who wants more information?
I mean, did we drop the idea of seeing what it was before? I'm just thinking like you can only, you know, it's like what it says in a handbook versus what actually happens might be different in any place. So
Yeah.
it'd be interesting if they add, like I was sort of assuming that part that circled was what was added, but it's also just what was requested. So it could have been in there. I mean, I'm just be interested that it shows that there was a conversation about this potentially being an issue and that something was added and that people knew about that it was added.
Yeah, the language of what we asked for wasn't to update anything like it was for the transport plan. It was just showing
Show proof.
that there's some kind of policy about it.
Okay, right.
But that's a good thing to maybe keep in mind, that just because it's the policy, it's maybe not happening. So if there's ways that we can be more thorough in the future, we can keep it in mind. Any other comments about what this licensee submitted? No. I think then if we have wrapped up that discussion, that our next item is public and interested parties feedback.
Anybody on the phone? We have nobody on the phone.
Nobody on the phone. Well, then there are no public or interested parties available to provide feedback. So we can move on to the next part, which is executive session. You ready for me to read that?
Yeah, you can read it. After she
The
reads.
Board of Direct and Trained Midwifery will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F and ORS 676.595 for the purpose of considering information exempt from public disclosure at 8:30 a.m. on May 12th, 2022. Representatives of the news media shall be allowed to attend the executive session by conference call and will be provided further call-in instructions shortly. The public phone line will be muted for the duration of this executive session. Are there any representatives of the news media on the public phone line?
No.
Oh, recognizing there is no news media in attendance, the public phone line will be muted for the duration of executive session. We will return to open session before taking any final action or making any final decisions. We are now in executive session.